It's like what, some brothers and sisters.
What is it with?
Mommy, bring me water, please.
Let's leave it here.
ওকে পাঠানো এনে দেবো আমি
Come on, guys. That's not right.
Yes, I did. I understand.
This one?
Yeah.
We'll be starting shortly. Folks are grabbing dinner. My wife made it. It's on the. It's called the Knights of Lebanon.
This I could do. I don't know if you want to do something.
We had 12 people. I just came and I said, hey, we're having lunch, dinner.
Just like
But
I want you to think about what happens to your family if you're no longer there to protect them. If you're no longer there to care for them. And we know in our faith, the time that we have on this earth is under the control of only God. Nobody else. And I want you to think about whether what you believe actually translates into what legally happens in any state, including Texas. Because these two things are often very different. We're going to see that. What you believe and what is going to actually happen according to the state. I want to keep this part brief so I can focus on you. But I've spent 25 years dealing with what happens when things go wrong. Financially, legally, and sometimes inside families. I've prosecuted financial crimes. I've handled asset seizures with professionals who thought everything was taken care of, everything was set, until they found out that it wasn't. So what I'm sharing tonight is not theory. What I'm sharing with you tonight is what I've seen happen over the years when things are not planned properly, when things break, and what happens when things actually hold up in court. So,
Sisters in the back, please.
just a quick note. Tonight is, thank you. Tonight is education. So if you choose to work with me or any other attorney, that's a separate conversation. The goal for tonight is very simple. It's to give you clarity so that you can make the right decisions for your family. Tonight is about three things: clarity, control, and protection. And doing those things in a way that is aligned with your faith, that's legally enforceable in the courts of Texas, and that actually works when it's tested, when it's under pressure. Because we all know in life that good intentions without structure and without discipline often create the exact harm that we're trying to avoid, protect our families from. So here's what I'd like to walk you through. First, why intention alone is not enough when it comes to state law. What courts actually do with or without a will. And the hidden traps that most families fall into when they don't plan properly. And a simple system that can help prevent bad things from happening and help make sure that what you want for your family actually happens when you're no longer here to take care of it. And if you understand this, you will already be ahead of 90% of families in our community. The Prophet ﷺ said that a Muslim should not stay even 2 nights without having a will read. This is not just advice. It's a responsibility that each and every one of us has. And here's the most critical part. Our faith requires intention. But Texas law, Texas courts require execution. And if you have one without the other, then your plan may not succeed. And your family won't know it until it's too late. In Texas and in other states, if you do nothing, if you don't have a will, the state will decide what happens to your property. Not your spouse, not your parents. Your conversations don't matter. The statute of each state and in Texas will decide. And the statute does not know your values, it does not know your faith, it does not know what you wanted for your family. This is where it becomes very real for a lot of families. If something happens to you, who raises your children? I want you to really think about that. Where will your children live? How will they be raised? What faith will they be taught? What food will they eat? Who will they associate with? What will the rest of their lives be? Because if you don't decide properly, then a judge decides that after you pass away. And the judge's decision may not fit your values, may not fit your wishes and your intentions for what you wanted for your children. And sometimes family members get involved, and they fight. And those fights happen at the worst possible time. And this is one of the most preventable problems that I see. Well, what is probate? Most people think that probate is about paperwork. Probate is the court that handles the decedent, which is what you become when you die, you are called a decedent. The estate is all your property and everything that you have. And the probate court is the one that administers and decides what's going to happen to your property. And also determines guardianship for your children, unless you have that stated out in a valid will. So, probate is about control. Who has the authority? Who can access your money? Who can act for your family members? Because without the proper legal structure, even simple estates become very stressful and difficult for your remaining family members. And this can be devastating for your family. And you're no longer here to speak. You're no longer here to help counsel them and help them work through their problems. So I want to be very clear. Everything that we're talking about here, I've seen personally. I've been involved in cases like this. I've seen families fighting over guardianship, families fighting over the children. I've seen businesses, very successful businesses that were built up 20, 30, sometimes more years. And they just freeze overnight because the important decisions cannot be made. And you all know what happens to a business that is frozen. It cannot survive. I've seen assets of very substantial estates, professionals who were two working families, a husband and wife, both professionals. A lot of money, a lot of property that they were able to acquire over the years. And I've seen those assets go to the wrong people. Because maybe they had a will that wasn't updated. Maybe they had a will that they thought was properly done, and then it got probated in court, and all of a sudden somebody challenged it. And it wasn't honored by the court. Maybe a will existed, but titles on certain properties were not updated from the proper beneficiaries. And now there's a contest, a fight in court, family members fighting. And the other thing that I've seen in probate court is when things get disputed in probate court, if you don't have a will in probate court, you can lose a large portion of your estate in taxes and probate fees, litigation costs. Sometimes as high as 75 to 90% loss of your estate. If you have a will, sometimes you can still lose because if family members are challenging it or you don't have guardians set up and fights are up in probate court, it's possible. So these things happen not because people didn't care. They happen because things weren't structured properly. Things weren't thought through properly. Many families today, as you know, are very complex. They're not simple like they used to be. And we have second marriages, we have blended families with 2 sets of children, different children from different marriages, different expectations about what education the children should have, what careers they should pursue. All of these things that you can specify through a will. Because what a will is, it's a living document. It's a document that when you die and you're no longer here to speak, that is the document that speaks for you. And without a properly structured will, you cannot distribute your property fairly. Because fairness then becomes a fight. It becomes subjective. There are pressures inside the family now, at a time where everyone is already stressed because you passed away. They just are dealing with your funeral and grieving, and now they have all these extra issues to deal with within the family. And there's conflict. On top of the grieving, there's conflict. And that conflict becomes inevitable when these structures are not in place. So, you've all heard about online wills, right? People, I'll go online, or I'll use AI. It's easy. I can do this. It'll cost me $50. Well, this is where I'm going to be very direct. Some of the biggest problems that we see in the system are because online wills fail. They fail not because of intent. You had the right intent. You wanted to do something. But they fail because of execution. Wrong witnesses. Conflicting beneficiaries. No incapacity plan. So these things can look fine on paper until they're tested in court, or until somebody challenges it within your own family. And this is one of the biggest issues that I see. People are trying to do the right thing. Again, the intent is correct, but without proper structure. So what happens? The result is unfair distributions. Your property is not being distributed the way that you would have intended. Tax problems. The tax problems that I have seen can be so costly and so devastating, and they take so many years to resolve, that many of them are so needless, and they cause so much damage to the family and to your estate. And forced decisions under pressure. Property is going to be sold off. Why? To pay taxes, or to pay some bill that came up. Somebody that's now become a creditor saying, oh, I'm owed this money, and I'm going to sue you now. And now there's a separate lawsuit being filed that you have to spend money to defend against, to resolve. And so good intentions, no matter how good they are, wind up creating bad outcomes. This is critical, and almost nobody understands this. Think about all the property you have, all the accounts you have: retirement account, bank account, checking account, IRA, 401k. And now, think about who gets that when you pass away. When you die, who owns that property? Each of those items is a separate item of property. A retirement account, life insurance, bank accounts, and each of these follow their own rules. When you look at the fine print at the end of it, it's got beneficiary sections. It's got all this legal language in there, but some of them even have guardian sections. They ask, do you want a guardian to be appointed? So all of these things need to be aligned within the planning of your estate, because a will alone won't address all of these other things. And all of these misalignment If these things are not aligned, your will with all of these other assets that you own, if they're not aligned, then this creates conflict within the probate process, within the family. And if they're not aligned, your entire plan could break. So you could think that you had it all planned out because you had a will, but you never aligned your will with all of these other assets. And they're inconsistent now. So now they have to get resolved by the court. And that court process is painful, it's expensive, and it's lengthy. So this is how I like to think about it. Not documents, but a system. A system that at the very base has a strong legal foundation for protecting your assets, for protecting your estate. Above that, tax and probate coordination that aligns all of your property properly and protects it. Then on top of that, risk protection and wealth preservation. And level 4, long-term strategy to grow your assets while you still have time. And when this is done correctly, everything works together. Because these gaps, each level, if there's a gap between each level, or if there's a gap within the levels, that's where the liabilities are. That's where the danger is. That's where your plan can collapse, if it's not integrated properly. So after tonight, you'll see that you really have two options. Option A is to just get your simple legal foundation done properly. It'll give you tremendous peace of mind. It'll give you a working start so that you have the bare essentials in place so that if anything happens to you tomorrow, at least you would have the bare minimum in place to protect your family. And option B, if you're a business owner or a hiring professional, you need something more advanced. You need real serious planning. Now, there's no pressure for any of this. This is not a sales presentation. This is to provide you with the information that you already knew. Deep down inside, you knew that your faith compelled you to do this, that this is farce. But we're human, and we always think that we'll always have another tomorrow. We'll always have another month, another week, and we can put this off. Brothers and sisters, I've seen so many cases where that tomorrow didn't come. And then I get a phone call. And then I have a grieving family that's asking me, where's this, where's that? And I say to them, I don't know, because I've never met you before. But I'll help you as much as I can now. But it's going to be a very painful and difficult process. But I'll do what I can to help. So, doing nothing is also a decision. That's a third option, I guess. But I think you know, everybody's heard this in their own family, in their circle of friends. They know what happens when you do. So, there are clipboards in the back of the room, there are cards there. If you'd like more information, please take a card or fill out the form so that we can follow up. But there's no pressure here. But I would encourage you not to leave this as something that you're going to get done later. At least start thinking about it more seriously than you have before. Start planning it in a way that you might not have had before. Have the conversations with your spouse, with your children, with your family members, and really start looking into what you have. Because, alhamdulillah, we're all blessed here in America. We all have a lot. We have a lot more than our relatives overseas. And we need to take care of them. But charity begins at home. Let's take care of our families first. Let's take care of the fathers, the Deen tells us to do. Take care of our families and then plan for your families overseas. So, when you really start looking into it, It's not complicated. It's a process. And every family, every individual will have their own process. But it is that process because some people have more property than other people. Some people have more accounts than other people. Some people have more wealth than other people. Some people have more children than other people. So these are all factors that go into it. But ultimately, get started in the process. Because the quicker you get the process started, the quicker you'll have something solid that complies with your faith and also with state law. And again, the peace of mind that you will get is tremendous. And I know this because before I went for Hajj, I did my own Ramadan. And my father had been telling me to do that for quite some time. His son is a lawyer. But it was really that process of going for Hajj that really forced me to sit down and think about it. Because it made me think that if I'm going to take such an important step for my faith, but I'm not following a very important instruction, then what am I doing? So, the process includes discovery, which means that's what you're doing. You're discovering what you have. You're digging really deep. I have clients that come to me. I'll give a talk like this, and a few days later they'll contact me and they say, "I want to come to your office. I'm ready. I have everything." And I say, "Okay, did you take the time to put this together?" And they say, "Yeah, I have everything." And then what I do is I send them a form. It's called a fact finder form. I say, take some time to fill this form out. And then they call me and they say, "You know what? I need to put the meeting on. Because that form you sent me has all these things that I didn't think about. So I need time. I have all these accounts, and it made me remember I have jewelry in a safe deposit box that I want to leave to my daughters for their wedding. I have cash, and I have accounts overseas. I have property overseas. I have all of this stuff that I didn't think about because I'm so busy just trying to pay the bills and doing my job and taking care of my kids." And I said, "That's normal. That's completely rational. And I'm glad we're having this conversation. Take a few weeks. Take the time to put all of that stuff down. Think about what you have. And then meet with me. And then we'll start the process." So the process is a structure. After you do the digging and discovery, and really put together everything that you have, then we sit down and start designing. It's a template. Because no two people are the same, no two families are the same. This is not a cookie-cutter approach. This is a custom, tailored approach. And the third part of that is then execution. Once we have all the drafts done and we've gone back and forth and we've seen that all the property is there, everything's aligned, all the beneficiaries, all the retirement accounts and the savings accounts, and everything is aligned and filled out properly, then we do what's called as execution. You sign it, make sure the proper, it's witnessed properly, it's notarized properly, it's executed properly. And that's not the end of it. Because what we find is the most successful families are the families that revisit this every year or every 2 years. They take their will out and they look at it. Because what happened a year later or 2 years later, that gap time? When you bought something or you sold something changed. You closed an account, you opened another account. Maybe you had another child, maybe you had another grandchild. So life is going on and you need to update it. But once you have that first will in place, updating it is easy. And it doesn't cost a lot, it doesn't take a lot of time, but it does take effort on your part to take those notes. Wow, I had a grandchild, I want to add this person to my life. I sold this property and I bought another property, I need to change that. So the goal is not paperwork, the goal is clarity. To keep things clear so that they hold up in real life when the time comes, when you can no longer speak for yourself. Now, I'll leave you with this. If this simple talk that we had today has helped you, if you found it valuable in any way, then please share it with somebody you care about. Because what I see most often is this. Families assume everything is fine. They assume somebody else took care of something. A wife assumes that her husband took care of something. A husband assumes that the wife took care of something. Until it's too late. something happens, a tragedy happens, and then the truth comes out. It wasn't taken care of, it wasn't done. But if we get this right as a community, and we protect not just ourselves individually, but each other, imagine what our community will be.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Hayya 'ala as-salah. Hayya 'ala as-salah. Hayya 'ala al-falah. Hayya 'ala al-falah. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. La ilaha illallah.
Any questions?
Yes.
You don't have any questions?
First is that thank you for the opportunity. Now, question is here, since the time is limited, please, every person allows for one brief question, so we can carry the time. Please go ahead. Sorry.
The will, when we write the will, how long it will be there? When it expires, you said it will be expired, how it will expire?
That's a great question. The question is, when a will is written, does it expire? A will does not expire. What happens is that it should be updated as life changes. So if you're older and you write a will, you probably are not going to have that many changes in your life. But if you're younger, young families, that have just had kids that write a will, what we tell them is every year to 2 years, just take a look at it. If anything has changed, give us a call so that we can have a meeting to update.
Does the will override the beneficiaries for the bank accounts and other stuff?
So it depends. If it's specific and it's not challenged, probably the court will honor it. But what we've seen, unfortunately, is these accounts and everything had specific beneficiaries written when the accounts were opened. The will was not made, they weren't thinking about the will. But later on, they did the will and forgot about the accounts. And they just put beneficiaries, and then if the will got challenged, then now you have people saying, no, wait a minute, that account belongs to me. It was promised to me. So that's why what we tell people is, look, alignment is important. Don't have one thing in your will and then one thing on all these accounts. Different beneficiaries because not everybody gets along all the time. And in a stressful time, when people pass away, things change.
So in that case, like will is the legally binding things, right? So as if I don't have any beneficiaries, let's say in my accounts, for example, and will talks about let's say dividing up in Islamic way or something like that, like in that way. So will takes precedence over everything in that
Correct.
case.
Where no specific beneficiaries are mentioned or needed, like for the title of home,
Right.
you wouldn't have beneficiaries.
Right.
But you might say upon my death, what you want to happen to the house. Do you want that house to be sold? Do you want the title of the house to transfer to the 4 kids? And then what? So we always ask very probing questions of the plan. We say, okay, this is what you want, but then what? What happens if this happens? What happens if that happens? Because we have experience that we know what can happen. Does that help answer your question?
Yes.
Briefly, what's the difference between revocable versus non-revocable trust?
So a trust is a different vehicle, but a revocable versus irrevocable trust. The revocable trust can be changed. The irrevocable trust, once you make it, it's very difficult, if not impossible, to change. The revocable trust has less protection because it's revocable. From creditor's perspective, meaning if I'm a creditor and I'm trying to sue you and collect a judgment, and you have assets within a revocable trust, still protected, but I could argue, I could fight and say, hey, it's not a irrevocable trust. This person meant to keep it open and fluid so that they can transfer it. So they shouldn't get the full protection that an irrevocable trust will give you, which is a lot more legal protection.
You mentioned that overseas, whatever we have to report, but we have to have.
Yes, you can, but, so, we have clients that have properties overseas. And with overseas property, your will decide how you wanted that administered. But there also has to be a legal process on the other side. But at least it's a starting point. Yeah.
So from like the beginning consultation to like finalize, what's the average cost of the whole process?
So it depends. If it's a simple will, then it's not that expensive. You're talking somewhere between, for a single person, 2,500, for a married couple, maybe 4,000. But if it's very complex, we have clients that have a lot of properties, and then each of those properties needs to be protected in a different way with a trust, maybe sometimes. There's tax issues and things like that, and they can get complicated, they can cost a lot. But generally, a will is not very expensive.
Tell them I heard you give me 10%.
Well,
So, overseas, currently, my wife has overseas. Now, only for us, but is it the process government or from overseas?
I don't know.
Means there are county overseas. You really say you to our children. That's not.
Well, it's enough for a court here, but then the property is overseas. So then how is that going to be handled? What you can do is you can then take that court determination and then go to that court there and say, this is the person who owned the property. You have that determination from the court. This is what the outcome of this property should be. So many times the court there will honor it if there's no challenge there.
Did you not just follow each other?
We can have